Hey everyone, it's July 12th, about 5:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin, BTC, USD on the Bitfinex exchange. So first of all, the video is not investment advice, and second of all, I just want to continue where we left off. Basically, we are in a bear flag. We fell out of the bear flag, and we are now progressing downward. I do think there's going to be some whipping in price like we've seen in the prior bear flags. You do get the thrashing around as price progresses lower, but you know, from what I've seen in price action here, it's just if you're going to try to enter this market and play this market, you need to be careful. You need to have your stops in place. Definitely have a risk strategy. The market is working against you. If you're playing from the long side, I can tell you there's a lot more money to make on the short side than there is on the long side of this market because things are becoming so predictable in Bitcoin from these levels. So again, like if we're not able to break above about 64.25, 64.50, Bitcoin is going to continue to progress lower. If we progress lower, the next major level of support is really that 57.50 mark. If we break through that level, then we definitely have much further to drop in Bitcoin. As we can see, the mid fives, potentially even, not the mid fives, the low fives. And if we break the low fives, there's a big drop from the low fives to any major support unless there's another intervention in this market. And clearly this market is all about interventions, and every single one of them keeps failing. I mean, every single one of them, from the 6,000 bottom to the 6,400 bottom to this little intervention, to that intervention, to this intervention, to that intervention. Every single one of them is failing. So I think any real big money is already out of this market. They're long gone. I highly doubt they're even looking at the market anymore. This market is just way too erratic. Essentially, what I feel is being done is that the market's just being stabilized, more than likely by the exchanges, to ensure their business model stays alive. Again, their entire future relies on this. So it's not that I'm talking like it's the end of the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency market. It's just you can see what happens. Anytime there's a big bar, we pretty much already know what's going to happen in this market. Now, what may be happening here is, yes, we do have a series of drops. The moves are getting smaller and smaller. The move is getting more elongated. If we do not break 57.50, instead start to go horizontal, we should start to enter the basing pattern. Now, like I've talked about in my prior videos, I don't mean to zoom out so fast, but you get the bubble top, right? You get the drop, and then you get the return to normalization. The return to normalization of any bubble market is that it always takes time. I've said this in my prior videos. No one ever wants to believe it. Things are going to take much longer than anyone's anticipating. I'm seeing people jump on CNBC, and I'm just going to call him out, Tom Lee. That guy is apparently riding the coattails of John McAfee. I don't know what those guys are sniffing. I don't know if they share it together or what, but anyways, so we still have these projections of 20,000, 25,000 by year end. That window is definitely closing as we're nearing the third week of July already. I highly doubt that's going to happen. We would need a mega move in this market. I mean, we would probably need hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars to really move price like that, to really just skyrocket it. We're struggling to get $3 billion and it's barely moving. So if we could get $100 billion, yeah, we might do a crazy move like this past 20,000, 25,000, like I think he's calling by year end. Not only that, you got other guys out there that are calling for 60,000, 50,000. I see YouTubers calling for like 35,000. Just insane price targets based on where we're at. Just insane. And you'd never see that insanity at bottoms. You never see that. At a true bottom in any market, people become so bearish that you get the reverse. Everybody should be talking about like sub 1,000 Bitcoin. We don't see that at all. You might have a handful of people talking about sub 1,000 Bitcoin, but I'm talking about the market should be absolutely devastated. Instead, this market is being whipped and whipped and whipped and whipped, and more retail traders are being sucked in by the mainstream media, by these ridiculous articles, and they are becoming bag holders. Now, if you're a bag holder, it's not that I'm trying to say it in a derogatory way, but if you're a long-term holder, you need to understand this market is going to take time. No one's going to say that because it doesn't sell. It's not sexy. No one wants to know. Guess what? I got to hold my position for potentially another year, 2, 3 years before I really start to see a good return. Instead, you got the crackheads on CNBC and the articles and everywhere else that are talking about this insane rise, this meteoric rise by year end. Like, okay, yeah, throw your money in there. Tom Lee says it's going to be over 25,000 by the year end. Like, dude, like what? Like what in the world? I've never in my entire life seen insanity like I do in this market. So it's going to piss a lot of people off, the things I say. People don't want to hear the things I'm saying. But so far, in the end, things have been panning out like I thought, We've been dropping out. I definitely thought this was a weird move coming out of that bottom, the 6,000 bottom, the same thing. When price started dropping, like that was it. Like this was the telling sign that every pop in this market is going to be sold off. There are more sellers than there are buyers in this market, and not enough people believe Bitcoin is even worth above 6,800. So at the end of the day, what could possibly even make you think, okay? What could make you think that Bitcoin should be here, or even above that? Like there's nothing. Like the marketplace is telling you exactly what Bitcoin is worth. Yes, we're trying to project it, but you got to stay within this zone. Like you got to stay within this lane. You start talking about those other numbers, I mean, we might as well throw in everything, what the kitchen's, everything in the kitchen's saying. We might as well talk about 100,000, 1 million Bitcoin by year end, all those other crazy numbers. So I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but those are the zones to look for. If we do not break above 6,400, then we are going to continue to flop back over. If we break 5,750, it's going to be bad news Bitcoin. Bad news, very bad news. If we break above 6,400, break above 6,800, we will progress higher in Bitcoin. However, I definitely think it's going to be a lackluster move either way. And instead, I think we're going to kind of just wave around, have some volatility as we build out this base, potentially returning to normalization in this market. And yes, that base in the future could lead to a move back up to retest 20,000. But I'm not going to Tom Lee you guys. I'm not going to John McAfee, anyone. I'm going to say that it's going to take a long time, much more time than people are anticipating, unless there's a massive intervention. I'm talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, if not maybe hundreds, like at least 100 million or $100 billion into this market would do that. But again, come on, like that's so unrealistic at that point. So just expect it's going to be a tough grind for Bitcoin. This is the basing phase, and price is going to grind its way and churn through into the rest of the year, more than likely building a base out. The big question is, do we collapse from that base or do we rise from that base? And that is if we are contained between 5,700 and 6,800. If we break those targets, things start to change from that analysis. So hopefully all that makes sense. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. If you like the video, please like, comment, subscribe, follow. You want to check out my site, it's geometriccharts.com. I do cover cryptocurrency. I do cover the cryptocurrency markets, stock market, commodities, and a little bit of Forex too, for my subscribers, where I talk about some specific price points, entries, stop losses, profit targets, etc. However you want to label it. But I do that in much more detail on a morning and night basis for Bitcoin and in the other various markets I explained. You can learn more about that at my site, geometriccharts.com. Other than that, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support.